Gridiron Garage, presented to you by 937 Football Insider, where we're covering college football recruiting in the Dayton and surrounding areas. Check us out on our website at 937footballinsider.com and on Twitter at 937FBInsider, on IG and YouTube at 937 Football Insider. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. I'm your host, Jason Ward. All right, today we have guests on the show. We got John Puckett. He's been coaching for 23 years and coaching football for 23 years. He's the current defensive coordinator for Centerville. He's also a member of that CJ team, that $94 million team. Thanks, Coach Puckett, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we got Coach Jason Freshwater. He's been coaching for 23 years. He's currently the pass game coordinator and wide receiver coach over at Alter High School. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, cool. And then we got Coach Scott Clemens. He's the head coach at Edgewood Football, Edgewood High School. He's been coaching for 24 years, the last 10 at Edgewood. All right, today we're filming at Beckel's Humidor at 33 West Franklin Street in Centerville, Ohio. It's a beautiful location out here, man. They got an upstairs, downstairs. They got board rooms. They got a putting green over here. It's a really nice place. Indoor, outdoor seating, great selection of cigars and other products. So if you're a member, you also have 24 hours of access to this place. They'll give you a code and you can just come up and you got 24-hour access. Check them out on their website at beckelshumidor.com. And the best thing about them, they're veteran owned. All right, today we're going to be talking about two topics. One of the topics we're going to be talking about is NIL, which is the name, image, and likeness. And the second topic we're going to talk about is the D1 or bust mentality. All right, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to start off with you, Coach Puckett. Talk to us about the D1 or bust mentality.
Well, I think I was thinking about this when you asked me earlier, maybe a week or so ago about it. And I think it kind of goes back to you started seeing a little bit of it at the beginning of social media, where it's all about other people's opinions. It's like a validation of how your quote unquote how good you are at whether it's football, basketball, baseball, and I think it all stems from. I think it starts at home. I think you have whatever your parents value. I think if they're pushing you and that's all they talk about and that's their expectation, and I think that becomes what you value. And if anything less than that, or if it doesn't pan out, I think where the problem comes in at is with the, that not only is this thing's less than whatever level, if you don't make it to it, I think what it ends up being is that that's when you start getting in, the coach this, the coach that. You start looking out for other reasons and other things to validate kind of like where you're at with it. And I think it's also, too, the ignorance of not knowing really how good you have to be at that level to play at that level, I think. But there's more to going into like getting a Division I scholarship than how good you are right now. I think a lot of them don't understand that when guys recruit, they're recruiting about what you can be, not what you currently are. And if you're maxed out right now, or they feel like you're maxed out of what you can be, they're not going to put their livelihoods at stake over a guy that they already know what you are. They want a guy where they project him being at a certain place, at a certain level. There's just a lot more that goes into it than how good you are. And I think a lot of guys use it as a status. You see on Twitter all the time, I got my, 7th offer or my 10th offer, and as opposed to just being really grateful to have a offer. I mean, you can only take one of them. And I think it's really good that I love that that's where they're trying to aspire to be, but I think what we need to get back to is a value. What are we becoming by what we're doing? Are the parents valuing that, that the kid's learning a work ethic, that he's striving for a goal, that he has a bigger purpose in life? Or is it, well, either if I do this, then I get that? I think we need to get back to more like valuing transformation as opposed to transactions. And that's kind of where I see it, and I think what that does is that it lends kids to seek outside advice that do not necessarily always have their their best interest at heart. You used to hear 15 years ago, oh, he's a hater or he's hating on me, and now they just don't listen to you if you're actually being very honest with them about your assessment of them at that moment.
Yeah, I think it's just really it's just a education thing. It's just like, or knowing what type of player you are, knowing, like a self-reflection thing. I think a lot of guys, they may see themselves as D1 players. Their parents may see them as D1 players because their dad wants them to be a D1 player, but they're not a D1 football player.
And I think just piggyback off what, Coach Puck was talking about there is, being a high school coach, being with those kids, you get a personal connection with them. And we see them through different eyes, but what he alluded to there with the college coaches is that's a business in for them. And those guys, their livelihood is based on these kids' performance and what they do. So what we see them and think that they can go do, sometimes we're looking through that, with some blinders too, because we have a personal connection with them. We think they can play at that level because of that connection we have with them as a player, and we see what they do. But those college coaches, those guys are making the kind of money they're making, and two bad seasons for them, they're packing their whole family up and having to move off to go somewhere else where, we still have our teaching job that we always, we'll have or whatever, maybe not the coaching side. So I think that's the hard thing with those things too is, you try to educate the parents and the kids on, the realization of where they can go play at and enjoying the ride of the high school experience and let the college take care of itself, once they get to that point.
Right. So Coach Fresh, do you believe that social media has affected this mentality?
I think it's the number one reason why I think it's a problem to begin with. The pageantry that goes along with having that big offer, and it's getting out of control. I think Coach Puckett's right. I think it starts at home, and if the parents have the expectations and are pushing that particular mentality, I think that's a mistake. Because if the kid doesn't get the D1 scholarship, then what's next?
Right. So, I did a little bit of research, and I looked up on Scouting Ohio. That's with Mark Porter. He does a great job. And as of February, he hadn't went back and did it, but as of February, there have only been 79 D1 FBS offers for the whole state of Ohio. Out of all the high school players that's here, there's only been 79 D1 offers. So what does that tell you guys? What does that say? That the majority of the kids that's playing high school football are going to play either FCS, Division II, or Division III football. So as of right now, as of February, off of Scouting Ohio, there was 151 kids that had FCS, D2, D3 commits. Last year, when it was all said and done, it was 126 FBS D1 commits, and then 348 D2 FCS and D3 commits. So I think the kids really just need to really understand how actually recruiting works and how football really works at that level. You never really want to crush a kid's dream, but you just have to have just a real conversation with them. And that gets me to my next question. This question came from online. This is from Justin Ward. He's a coach over at Vandalia Butler. And he wants to know what are ways that we can combat this mentality and how to help these young athletes understand that it's not D1 or bust. Coach Puckett?
Well, I think it's, I think obviously, I think what it all boils down to when it comes to the coach and advising athletes and what they do with their future, a lot of it comes down to the relationship you have with the kid. Is he going to trust what you're saying, with the advice you're giving? But I think to combat that mentality is not only just education, but showing, taking the kid to a D2 game, a high level D2 game, and say, look at this kid. Is there any, this kid, like I was telling, we talked before the show, the guy I played with in college was a Division I, or I'm sorry, first round draft pick and played at a Division II school. You know, he was 6'5", 299, and when we had our pro day, was the second fastest guy there at the pro day. I mean, those guys just don't, to be at that level, to play at a high level, no matter where you're at. Like, everybody is really good, and I also think too, just getting at a young age, like trying to figure out why are you playing the game? You know, like what are you doing to get something from it, or are you doing something, or is it because you love the game? College is too hard at any level to play. There's a lot of time, there's a lot of commitment, and then if you don't have that base of love for the game, I think you're really going to struggle when it gets hard. You know, it's going to, at some point, it's going to break you. And no matter if you're Division III, NAIA, it doesn't matter. But I still think is getting those guys onto a D2 campus to see kind of what D2 football is about, what NAIA football is about. They're not going to, obviously the facilities aren't going to be as great, but the guys that play, you know, are going to be, you know, really good football players, and you know, providing them with examples of guys that they've played against that are playing Division II. You know, like, you remember how this kid was, and he went and played, and he's thriving there, you know. But also, like we were saying before, you know, do you want to go to, would you rather go not enjoy your experience and not do much at Eastern Michigan, or, and that's just an example, or do you want to go to Ferris State and play for, you know, a Division II national championship? You know, those are decisions you're going to have to make, you know, and does it really matter to you that how many likes you get one day that in 2 weeks from now, nobody's going to remember what you put on there anyways?
Right. I think it's, they haven't realized what the bigger picture is yet. You know, that college football, you know, there's a lot of guys that don't get to play college football. And really what you're doing, and it's like cliche to say it, but, you know, I have a son that's playing college football, and he told me he see what's the bigger picture. It's really getting the education while you're there, because a lot of people, they don't move on, you know, to play college football. So right now throughout the country, this is off of NCAA.com, there are 1,006,013 high school participants. There are 73,000 NCAA kids playing NCAA football, you know, and so that's only 7.3% of those kids that are getting to go to play college football. And then, you know, you break that number down even farther is with the kids that are getting drafted. You know, how many of those kids are actually get drafted? It's, 254 kids that get drafted. You know, so that number shrinks down even more. So really the big picture, and I think the kids, the players really need to understand that, is that, you know, you need to get there. You get to go there. Hey, football is a great thing, but make sure that you're getting your education, because the majority of the players on that team are not playing football past college. Some of them may not even make the 4 years. They're not as there. Mm-hmm.
There is also another side to this where some kids will get smaller Division I offers and sit on those to wait for the Power 5 offer. And eventually those are going to go away if they sit on them long enough. And that's, you know, that comes to the education part of it. You know, they got to know the realism of what it is and how it's going to work. So,
yeah. So I guess that, you know, was essentially a scholarship is saying, hey, we're going to pay for you to go to college, for you to get your education. And I don't care if that education's at, you know, a FCS school or, you know, or Ohio State. The goal is to get that education while you're there. But we all know that there's players throughout this country, they're not going to college to play or they're not going there to get the education. They're going there to play football. Yep. You know, and that's what it is. They're there to play football. Another fact that I want to put out there for a lot of folks who probably didn't know. You guys know how many D1 scholarships each team can give out? You might know.
Per year?
Per year?
25.
How many full rides do they have on the team? 85. A total of 85 out of all those kids on the team, only 85 have full rides. And the majority of those kids are just walk-ons, and that's D1 FBS. FBS, that's tuition, room, board, books, all that good stuff. Then FCS on the school, total on the team is 63, and they're able to spread those apart, break those scholarships up. So you very rarely find a kid that's on the FCS team with a full scholarship. They're all just partial scholarships mostly, but you can get a full FCS scholarship. And then it goes down even farther to 36 scholarships for D2, and they can break that down amongst the players on the team. So really, it's not that it's money out there, but you got to know where the money is. When they say go where you want it, go where you want it. And the kid knows, by your junior year, if you're a D1 FBS kid. If you don't have a FBS scholarship before the start of your senior year, you 9 times out of 10 are not going to get an FBS. It's going to be very hard, to get one. Well, that
was part of one of my notes I put on here was that I think a lot of D2 coaches don't pitch D2 very well either. They give you the same spiel that the Division I, and a lot of the lower level Division I coaches are pretty lazy with their recruitment and their pitch as well. A lot of it is, hey, we like you, what we see, we want to get you on campus. If you're at the D2 level and you want one of those kids that is a borderline kid, then you have to explain to them how the money breaks down, right? I was a D2 scholarship kid, and at the beginning of every semester, I got a check from the school where my scholarship amount, because it was in a dollar amount, was not used, so I got that money back, right? And it's just another benefit of going to a school that doesn't give out full rides. Just something small like that, of being able to pitch a different side that most people don't know that about Division II or FCS.
I would love to know what the number is, let's say at the Power 5 schools, of the kids that go there and don't play.
Oh, yeah. Well,
what do you think the percentage is of that?
I wouldn't want to guess on it, but I know that's why, on my first episode of The Garage, we talked about the transfer portal. And that's what it is. You get a lot of guys with that D1 or bust mentality. They get to those schools and they see, hey, I'm not going to play. I'm going to sit on the bench for the next, 3 years. And hey, they're recruiting 5-star athletes every year to take my spot, and I'm never going to get on the field. So now I have to transfer. So I said all those stats, but I didn't mention that D3 are non-scholarships. So if you go D3, it's non-scholarship. But I know kids that went D3 football and barely paid any money out of their pockets. They have so much academic money they can actually give you. NAIA is 24 scholarships, and JUCO is 85. And then another thing, I don't know if kids realize that scholarships are 1-year agreements. So you can have that scholarship 1 year, and you don't cut it or pan out, you're done. You don't get that scholarship. So.
And I think Coach Puckett alluded to that too. You'll see that when college coaches come in. It's amazing to me sometimes those D1, D2 kind of coaches' mentality when they're recruiting. Some of those best recruiters come in are from those D3 schools where the only thing they're telling that kid is, hey, we don't have a scholarship for you, but here's what we're going to offer you. They start talking about job placement rates. Some of the schools in Ohio that have their Division III that have great academics, they're really, they do a great job of really catching that kid in that first 5 minutes, talking about when you leave this school in 4 years, here's what this school's going to be able to offer you in your future life and stuff. And it's amazing to see the difference. Sometimes those D3 coaches that come in and are recruiting your area, a better job that they do explaining, because kids understand at this point, those D3s don't have that scholarship, but hey, here's what our kids are actually paying, to go to school here, because the academics you have that 3.5 GPA, you got that 20 ACT, so here's basically what you're going to pay, but hey, here's what we're going to do for you on the back end. That program you're going into, we got a 90% job placement rate, and here's the Fortune 500 companies that we have coming in our school. So it's impressive to see those schools come in and recruit your kids and hear them sell their school, kind of in a better manner sometimes than some of those bigger schools do.
Yeah. So, Coach Fresh, do you think it's the kids wanting to go to the NFL. You know, they come in, that's what their goal is. They're not going there to go to school. They're going there to go to the NFL. Do you think that's why the D1 or bust mentality is there as well?
Absolutely, 100%. You know, if you were to ask a kid who gets an offer, you know, what do you think your first series of classes is going to be? I'm pretty sure they're not going to be able to tell you, but they're going to be able to tell you what the practice schedule is, what time you got to be in the weight room. So yeah, I think that's the common goal for all that is to get to the highest level, not necessarily the academic part.
Yeah. So I found some other interesting stats that there are 97 currently. There are 97 FCS players on NFL rosters. That's after the preseason cuts. There are out of this past draft, there were 5 D2 players that were actually drafted, and 26 signed free agent contracts after the draft, and there are 47 D2 football players on rosters, along with there's 6 D3 players on current rosters. So, you know, that's a good conversation, about that. But we have to move on to the next topic, and this one is it's a little touchy, to some people, but I think it's going to make for a good conversation. So we're going to talk about the NIL, which is the name, image, and likeness. Coach Fresh, can you talk to us about that?
Yeah. Last year, the NCAA passed a protocol, I guess you could call it, that they passed it in July, I think, of 2021. Mm-hmm. That kids,
July 1st.
Yeah, yep. That they can go to school and companies can pay them, compensate them for doing promotions or, take photos, go out on meet and greets. So that's a huge part of the ball game now. Those schools that can offer all those companies to come in and help those kids out.
Yeah. So like the NIL in college, it's like fairly new. So I think they're really trying to figure it out. Some colleges can get NIL, contracts as an actual team. You can get the individual ones. So I think back to that D1 or bust mentality, these kids want to get paid too. So when they see that, hey, USC has this big contract, for NIL, they're going to want to go there so they can get a piece of that money, as well. Coach Clemens, how do you think the NIL would affect high school and college football?
Well, we was talking about, before the show started, it's, everybody has their different opinion on it, but my biggest thing is, why can't these players get some of that pie? I mean, unfortunately, you turn on the news and now they publicize, the SEC this year after the TV deal and everything was done, each one of those institutions got $35 million, from the TV deal. So it's like you're sitting there as a player, sitting there thinking, yeah, I'm going to school free and I'm getting that education, but that money that them schools are receiving are based on my performance out there and all that stuff. So, I understand why they want that money. And, it's always kind of been that way. College football at that level has always been that, minor league, kind of stepping stone for the NFL. And I mean, what those players are going out and doing each week and what they're trying to perform and do, I mean, I'm all for, those young people getting an opportunity to get some kind of money as they're in college. I mean, it's not as easy as everybody thinks living on campus. I mean, you get some perks, but at the end of the day, just being able to go and hang out with friends or, go do stuff like that. I mean, for some of those families, that's still hard to do. People don't realize that when you go to college. You got the college paying for it, but hey, your kid's still going to be on that campus. They're still going to go out to dinner. They want to go to bowling alley, go do the movies and all those different things like that. Where's that money come from at that point? So why can't those young people, reap the benefits of the money that these colleges are making off what they do on Saturday afternoons?
Yeah, we just talked about that earlier. So if only a small percentage of them are going to go to the NFL and actually get paid, maybe this is a way for these individuals to get their share of the pot while they're actually playing. Just this past a couple weeks ago or last week or so was that on May 17th, OSHA they announced that the image and likeness proposal for high school athletes to sign endorsement agreements was rejected. So they were trying to do it at the high school level, and I know Texas and California and some other states, they allow their high school players to use the NIL to their advantage. Coach Puckett, how do you feel about that in the state of Ohio? It was rejected by they put it down on the schools, and the schools rejected it.
No, I'm all for it. I think it's great. I think if a kid can, if he's good in a high school band and he can go play in a band on a Friday night and get paid for his skill set, I don't see why a kid that is a good athlete can't get paid for his skill set as well. I do worry about it being an extra burden on the schools, right? That's going to cost them more in terms of educating, having now that adds another thing or a few things to the coaches, the head coaches, to-do list, and then do they have to hire a new person? Because OSHA, they can pass it. I mean, if the executive board wanted to pass it, they could pass it, but then they can just wipe their hands with it and walk away. Still being able to educate the parents and the kids on what are you really getting yourself into here, and what are the the protections that they're going to have now? Are they going to have to hire a lawyer to look over the contract? But like everything else, that to me, like the downfall of it is the lack of education and what you're getting yourself into as an athlete and as a family, right? Because that's going to be, you're underage, most likely you're going to have a family decision to make. And then B is what an additional cost, kind of what is this going to add to the school when most public schools are not, like Alabama's bringing in, what, $1 billion a year in athletics or whatever. I don't know what it is. I just threw a number out. But like most, I would say 99.9% of all high schools are losing money when it comes to athletic budgets. So now they're going to have to hire a person to be in charge of that. Yeah, and also too, talk about the Division I or bust. Now you're really expanding the expectations of some of these people that are going to think their kid is going to make. I think there's going to be a handful of kids, you probably count them on one hand, who are really going to make some serious money with the NIL stuff. I think most kids are not. If they do make something, I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be a lot. I think we're making more of it than what it's really going to be. But what I do worry about is these kids getting themselves into a situation, and these families getting themselves into a situation from a lack of education on what they need to do to protect themselves.
Yeah, I was just thinking that when you were just saying, I kind of feel like it's good and a bad thing for it to be at the high school level. But I think the bad part, so we just talk about pros and cons now. I think one of the bad things about it is that a kid can mess up his amateur status really fast, not knowing what the actual rules are, of the NIL. He can mess around and do that. Then can't go play college football, at least NCAA. He can go play in NAIA or whatnot, but he can mess up his status. Also, when you start bringing in money into high school football, what comes with that? You start being able to pay kids. You got predators. You got people that's out here trying to, bet on games and everything else. So I feel like a kid should have the ability to get paid for his image. But I feel like at the college level, they need to get that together first, and maybe the high schools can model theirs off of what the college has it. They have it because they still running wild in college over it.
There's got to be some parameters involved with that.
Yeah. So I mean, anybody got any other pros and cons about it?
I think it's like Coach Bo was talking about. I mean, you talk about like Ohio State, they got Gene Smith's AD, but then there's so many other people in that department of compliances is that burden of the school now. I mean, you have to go hire a compliance officer that's make sure the paperwork's filled out right. Where's that money coming from? Who's getting that money and stuff? So I mean, it could create an extra burden on schools to deal with that. But at the end of the day, too, is how many communities have those kind of businesses or those kind of alumni base that's going to go pay a kid that kind of money to be there, not knowing what that kid's going to turn into or what we think. They can have the offers and all that, but what's that money look like, and how does that money get used, or where's that money put into? Or do you say, hey, we put that money into some kind of like some trust? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then when you get in college, that's the money you get to use to live on day to day and stuff like that. Based on we're going to give a high school kid $10,000 to play the sports. At that point, I mean, that could get kind of crazy.
Yeah, just something as simple as how, YouTube does their model. I don't know how that goes. These YouTubers that's 9 years old making, a couple $1 million a year. Like, what's their model? How they do it? You know what I mean? Like, I think that's,
That's true.
I don't know. It's just, that's the scary part to me, that's the part that I worry about, is just someone getting, money's the root of all evil. Someone coming in, a parent, so let's say an uncle or a parent makes a bad choice. You hear all the horror stories, but the next thing you know, like you said, you got game fixing, if they're even betting on it. Like, is that the next step we go now? The brand NIL, now we go start gambling on high school games?
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking, I think that it could roll into like recruiting. I mean, if you think about it, if school X has all this alumni with all this money, and well, guess what? Come on over to our school.
Yeah.
Once you had to transfer, and I think that could be a possible issue as well.
I think that's what happened to that kid from at the college level. That kid from Pittsburgh.
Wide receivers,
yeah,
USC now.
Is going over to USC for that. So yeah, I think it's that. Especially the bigger high schools. If they can get an NIL deal. With the high school kids who want to transfer, and go over there and play with those. So that's a great point there.
Muller's not going to have any heart. They're not going to have a hard time coming up with money.
I don't disagree with you right there. So, that was some great conversation on that. Anybody else got anything on they want to share about the NIL?
Hi, and welcome to Beckel Humidor. We are open from Tuesday through Sunday from 11 to 7, Fridays and Saturdays. We are open until 9 p.m. We are located at 33 West Franklin in Centerville, and we are veteran owned and operated.
So I do have one more thing about that. So we talked beforehand, but the largest NIL deal has been signed so far. They didn't mention the kid, but he's a 5-star athlete, high school kid. It can be valued up to $8 million.
Wow.
Is that the kid going to Texas?
I'm not sure. They didn't say where he was. They left him nameless and whatnot. But he signed an $8 million deal, and it says, per the report, the unnamed rising star will be paid $350,000 almost immediately, and then receive monthly payments that will increase to $2 million a year when the athlete is on campus. In exchange, he will make public appearances and play a role in social media promotions, as well as participate in NIL activities. So if he's getting $350,000 right now, he's got to be in Texas or California or one of those states that allow high school players to get paid, man. But that's a lot of money.
That is.
It's a lot of money. I just hope that one thing I feel like they need to have some type of class or something. So these kids can know how to manage that money, man. Because some of these kids may come from a tough situation, and they might blow that money and then blow their knee out in college, and then they have nothing to show for it. Yeah. So maybe just have some type of education for these kids, and I'm sure some colleges have them. I know Ohio State brings in guys to teach finance and things like that. So I hope the kids are paying attention to those guys if they have that resource available to them. All right, great topic, guys. So let's move on. So let's talk about some players that we are. I like to highlight players. Giving coaches the opportunity to talk about some of their kids that they like. So, hey, Coach, tell me about your guy out there.
I just feel like sometimes, in offenses nowadays, some guys get lost in the shuffle, and, we still run a tight end set. So, we got a senior to be Evan Swartz, he's just a great young man, does things the right way, and, just being that tight end that, like I said, a lot of schools don't use them in the way, but I mean, Evans, a true tight end for us. We're in a true tight end set every time that, he blocks his rear end all fours and stuff, and then got great hands, runs great routes, and just, does things, sometimes, like I said, that those positions are a lost art, and, asking a kid that, block more than they're going to catch the ball, and then when you do get that opportunity to catch the ball, it's a huge play. So they even have more pressure at that point, how many times you're going to catch the ball. But, and then those plays are called for him to catch it. They got to be big plays, and you got to have expectations that, the trust that he's going to catch. And, he's just that young man for us that, a lot of trust in what he does. blocking and receiving the ball, and just does a great job. And just want to make sure, because like I said, just want to make sure he gets recognition for what he does for us in our offense.
Yeah, so that's your stud out there?
Yeah, like I said, he's, we got a lot of great players, but just, that's just that one for us. I just feel like a lot of the other guys get their name in the paper and do things, but, he's that lost percentages and those lost statistics of, what he does, blocking for us, and then his big catches, are a huge force.
Yeah. So you got an under the radar guy you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like I said, we got some, some young guys that, going to, step up and perform for us, this year and stuff. We lost some seniors, so, we got some guys on the old line. I'll just, pinpoint that way that, that's, we got some of those guys that had to step up this year, and we'll see how they do to, do it. But I think that, that's the kind of position for us this year is we've got some young guys on the old line just going to have to really step up and perform for us. We had a 4 years player, guard and middle linebackers going up to Tiffin. Somebody's got to fill his shoes. So we got 2 young men that are going to get the opportunity to do that. Kind of interested to see how they do this year with it.
All right, sweet. All right, Coach Freshwater, maybe going to talk about those alternates.
All right. Well, we have a junior wide receiver / DB, Michael Russ, who is a tremendous athlete, 3-sport athlete, and it's just fast guy team. Got great hands. He's going to be special. He's definitely going to test the defensive backs in GCL this year.
Mm-hmm. That's your stud?
That's one of them, yeah.
Okay, who's your other one?
Junior middle linebacker Henry Reed-Schneider. Henry is a great kid. He's not the biggest, but he is hands down the most intense football player I've ever coached. And he likes to hit, like he looks for it. His middle linebacker was built for this kid. Mm-hmm. We had a scrimmage last year, and we had a rain delay. All the kids took their pads off and were kind of chit-chatting. Well, Henry just sat in his chair with all his pads off, still chewing his mouthpiece. Mm-hmm. He wasn't going to take his pads off. So he's going to be special as well. I'm looking forward to watching him play.
Okay. How about you, Coach Puckett?
As one of our big guys that I have on here is Jackson Myers, is our offensive lineman.
How big is that kid?
6'2", probably 250, 260, right around there. Mm-hmm. Strong as an ox. He squatted 600 pounds last year at right before the summer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a very powerfully built kid. You can see or tell there. Unbelievable kid, natural leader. I can see him being like a general one day. Like he's got. He looks like he's. He has like a 45-year-old man's haircut. He's just one of his old soul. Great family, great attitude, really funny, good kid. He's on the cusp of a couple different, I know Navy really likes him, Army really likes him. Maybe in a couple of FCS schools like him as a center. He plays tackle for us, but I played most of the season with a torn ligament in his knee. He's just a kind of throwback, tough kid, great kid.
Yeah. And what about your under the radar guy?
We have a tight end that's one of those 6'4" post kids that thought he was a hooper, and then now he realizes that maybe I could have a future in football. And he always played X, and then this year we slid him into our tight end position, and he's really committed himself to the weight room. He runs really well, runs good routes. He catches the ball like a receiver, which is not always common with tight ends in high school. Mm-hmm. His biggest thing was learning how to play with his hand in the ground. We run a lot of true tight end sets, but we also run some Y-off formations and pull him around. And by the end of the year, he got pretty comfortable. Really good athlete. He mossed a kid in the game this past year. 6'4", probably about 215. So I think he's really going to blow up this year. I think he's going to be really, really good.
Yeah,
His name's Bryce Cole, too. Sorry.
Okay, I'm actually excited to see your defense.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like after when I went over there and we had the G-Walk showcase and I got to see some of your guys. Like I'm really excited about that defense.
Yeah.
I want to see. I was talking to some folks and I told them, I said, I think Centerville may have one of the best defenses in the area, man. So hopefully you don't make me look bad for saying that.
We should be pretty good at not screwing us up.
All right, so my guy that I have, his name is Anson Cox. He's a 6'6", 250-pound offensive defensive lineman from Pickle. When I was up there and I just saw all the meat Pickle had on that line, and I see why they went as far as they did. So they have 2 guards returning, but they have this kid, and this kid is a humongous kid, man, and he moves well. Like that's the big thing about it. Like if, you 6'6", 250 pounds or 260 some odd pounds, can you move? Well, he plays center on a basketball team as well, so he definitely has the footwork, or whatnot. I know he has some schools that are looking at him, but I believe that kid's gonna have a great season.
He's going to be really well coached, too.
Yes.
You can tell that coaching needs to make him tough.
Yeah. And a kid that I really, really like, my under the radar guy, he's a Dayton Public School kid. His name is Storm White. Storm White is 5'9", 170 pounds, but he plays big, man. I think he's getting overlooked just because of his measurements, or whatnot. The kid got a 4.2 GPA. Wow. He could play football. I just think if whoever gives this kid the opportunity to give him the chance to play, they won't regret it.
Where's he at?
He's at Ponies. Yeah, he's at Ponies. There was a camp. There was a camp this past weekend, and they ran 40s, and then they had a race at the end. And he was the 3rd fastest kid throughout the whole camp. So the kid can really play football, and I just think that he just needs the opportunity. There's another kid over there that hadn't played football since his freshman year. I'm about to let the cat out the bag, but he hadn't played since his freshman year. His freshman year, he scored 9 TDs in 10 games at wide receiver. Well, he hadn't played football since. He was a basketball player, and he was player of the year for Dayton City for the last 2 years. His name is Dejon Anderson. His grandfather is Dwight Anderson. I don't know if you guys ever heard that name, Dwight Anderson. He's a hooper. He's like a legendary hooper from Dayton. He went to Kentucky, then went over to USC, man. So this kid, he has some pedigree in him, and he was at the they did a showcase over there for the Flight Academy, and there wasn't a kid there that could check him. So there wasn't a kid there that could check him. Hadn't played football in 2 years, so I'm really curious to see how that kid does over there.
Oh
yeah. So let's get on to the games. This is always a good topic also too. So, all right, Coach Clemens, what game are you looking forward to this year?
And you said that to me. It's always one of those things you got to watch what you say because everything comes billboard material with social media.
That's what I'm asking.
So you put it out there. It's like, well, he didn't say our game, and look what he thinks about you guys. But we play in a tough league and very impressive. But this year we got Clint Massey, and I think anytime you got somebody that's won a state championship. On your schedule. I mean, it doesn't take any. Like I said, we got a lot of. We got CJ on the schedule this year. So I mean, a lot of big games in our league. But like I said, anytime that you got to look at your players and say, a state championship caliber team that's on your on your schedule. I mean, that's a big time. And we scrimmaged them for a number of years. COVID hit. We everything got busted up there. So we've scrimmaged them in the past and know kind of know what to expect of them. Coach McSorley does a great job. They're going to be physical. They get after you and they just keep coming. They don't. It's a 48-minute game when you play Clint Massey. There's no, Coach McSorley has that mentality. Friday nights for varsity, Saturdays for your JV and your freshman. So when you play them, it's you got to tell your players like it's going to be a 48-minute football game. You could be up 10 points. There's no cushion playing them. So I mean that's a big game for us early. In the season being a week 2 game.
Yeah. So how about you, Coach Fresh?
Well, I'm going to go with the Holy War. CJ game. It's I think my brother who announces our games tagged it that one time. So that game usually comes down to playoffs or the past for GCL. So it is a game where you can throw out all records.
I know that. I've been on the other end of some of those games. Man.
It's physical. There's a genuine dislike on Friday nights. Come Saturday morning, they're all buddies again. So, but that's a big year.
Yeah, that's week. That's all. Was that week 10, right?
Yeah.
It's always week 10. Like I said, I've been on the other end. My son played at CJ, and there was some games that I just couldn't believe. I wanted to cry myself to sleep after some of those games, man. So, how about you, Coach Buffett?
Yeah. Well, but Coach Clemens said you need billboard material. By the time you get to the game, you're in trouble. But like with us, it's our whole league is pretty good. But I think the games, are kind of the more obvious ones, like the Springfield game. You're talking about top level talent going against top level talent. And it's always a physical, nasty game. Like Springfield's good, man. They're really well coached. And those kids they challenge everything, and it's great. It's a great game to be in. It's a great game to prepare for. I've been as a player, I was in the CJ Alta rivalry, and I loved being a part of it. But the best rivalry I've ever been a part of is Centerville Wayne. It's two towns that don't particularly care for one another. It's got everything you want in a rivalry. Like it's, the socioeconomic difference, you got their perceived difference, and then you got everything you want between like Centerville and Wayne is phenomenal. I love that game, and that's always a big game. And to say that they beat us would be putting it lightly. They put it on us this past year.
They have a good offensive line over there.
That was so that's always a game. I don't remember if it like last year. And they kind of moved it from week 10 to week 6 or 7, I believe. But so right in the middle of the year, kind of not always great, but that's always a game that we really look forward to.
Yeah, but Wayne is stacked. They have players over there with offers. They're stacked, man. I went and when they had you guys had the G Walk day, and I went over there. And I was like, this ain't fair. It's not fair. Like all the kids that they have over there, they have a 6'4" wide receiver. That was a freshman. You know what I mean? Like they got some players over there, man. So I'm looking forward to that Wayne Centerville game. I think it's going to be really good. I want to see how their offense stacks up against your defense.
Oh yeah, I think the other team is going to be really good this year, and it's not 9-3-7. But I think the other offense is going to be really good.
Yeah. So the game I'm looking forward to is Trotwood Alter. And the reason I look forward to that game is just because Trotwood and Alter played in the playoffs in 20. That was 20. They played in the playoffs, and Alter went to Trotwood and put it on them. And with the running back had 5-6 touchdowns that game.
Brandon had a game.
How many yards did he have? It was something astronomical, but he scored 5 touchdowns against Trotwood. And I know Trotwood was young and whatnot, and COVID this, COVID that, but I know they're going to be looking forward to that game just because what happened. It was just bad. That's not like Trotwood to go and let somebody just run 5-6 touchdowns against them. So I know they're going to be looking forward to that game. I know Trotwood they have a bunch of studs over there also, man, and they're all homegrown over there. So they got the 6'4" quarterback over there, Tim Carpenter. They got some good wide receivers. Actually, they got an 8th grader. They got 2 offers. He's an 8th grader. Yeah, defensive tackle. He's not even in high school yet. Got 2 offers. Big boy. So I know he's gonna go over there. So I think I said it before. I think Trotwood has maybe another year, but I feel like they'll be playing for a state title. In Division III year after next. So I appreciate you guys for coming out. And being on the show with us, man. This is always great to sit around and be able to talk some football and have coaches come on and highlight their players. So I enjoy it, man. It's not really a job for me. because I'm having fun, actually doing it. So, I want to say thanks to Coach Puckett, Coach Freshwater, and Coach Clemens for coming on. I want to say thank you to Beckel's Humidor for allowing us to film here. Make sure you guys check them out. 33 West Franklin Street in Centerville, Ohio. Dre shot this, who's doing the filming, and Moves Media, who's doing the audio. Thank you guys for coming out and doing this. And make sure you guys check us out again on my website at www.937footballinsider.com. Make sure you check us out on Twitter, 937FB Insider, and on YouTube and Instagram at 937 Football Insider. Thank you guys.
Thanks. Thanks, guys.